This is Rock and Roll English. Real people, real English. Here's your host, Martin Johnston.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Rock and Roll English, episode number 313, baby. And we have a very special episode today. Now, usually this would be the podcast where I have a close friend on, like Boom Boom, Corporal Coma, etc., etc. The R&R conversation, I like to call it. Now, today is a little bit different, and I emphasize the little bit there because I had some recording problems for the R&R conversation, let's say, but I did have a real R&R conversation with Gabriel from the Clark and Miller podcast. Now, it's quite rare that I talk to someone from this online world, let's say, and have a real R&R conversation. By R&R conversation, obviously I mean stupid, funny, lots of laughs. You know how it works on Rock and Roll English. But today we definitely do that and have an R&R conversation as we talk about British tabloid newspapers. Now remember, the tabloids in the UK are the, let's say, not good newspapers, not the really intelligent ones, let's say, where they write about real like political issues and things like this. That's probably not the best description, but yeah, I'm sure you know that word anyway. But more importantly, we talk about some of the hilarious stories you find in these papers and also the language they use. So lots to learn, lots of laughs, and also very useful to understand these tabloid newspapers, especially if you live in the UK. So we will jump into the conversation now. We did lose connection in the middle of this podcast around the 20-minute mark. You probably won't even notice. There's just a moment where I'm talking for a really long time and laughing at my own jokes, but that kind of happens a lot. Anyway, just one more thing. Remember, if you have any difficulty understanding the conversation, don't forget to check out my online course, Jungle Listening, the only course on the market which actually teaches you how to listen and how to understand fast-spoken English instead of just listen and hopefully you will understand. So the link to that is in the podcast you are listening to right now. The price is also going up this week, so make sure you check it out. Anyway, I will talk to you very quickly at the end because this is a longer podcast than usual. So enjoy the conversation. I will talk to you again at the end. Happy listening. So hello, Gabriel, and welcome to Rock and Roll English.
Hello, Martin. How are you doing?
Very well, thanks. Finally, you are here on the podcast. So for people that don't know, I was on Gabriel's podcast probably a couple of years ago now, something like that.
Man, that was really quite a while ago. Yeah, it was about a couple of years ago.
Yeah, and then I said, okay, we'll record one for me for Rock and Roll English. And then 2 years passed, and then I contacted you and said, hey, Gabriel, are you still up for doing that podcast? But here we are, finally.
It takes time. These things take time.
I actually wrote to someone in 2017 and she responded to me last week about coming on the podcast. So, yeah. So this is nothing, okay. Gabriel, this 2 years.
That's cool.
But when I was on Gabriel's podcast, he said something which, let's say, tickled me. So when something tickles you, it makes you laugh a lot, which was when you referred to the word romp as romp. The newspapers in the UK love that word. So for people that don't know it, in fact, you tried to describe it for me, Gabriel. How can we describe it?
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. So like romp is such a tabloid, like an English tabloid newspaper term. It's definitely got a sort of sexual overtone, I suppose. People who are having some sort of like sexual fling, but they're not supposed to. I guess it's illicit, right?
I hadn't really thought about that actually. Yeah, because you wouldn't get a married couple having like romping, would you?
No, that just sounds weird, right?
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that part. The not supposed to. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a sort of element of judgment going on. These people are romping. How dare they?
Exactly. So what?
Yeah.
So what I've got today is exactly as you said there. Lots of these tabloid newspaper terms, which you don't really find in normal day-to-day conversation, but they seem to be in tabloid newspapers in the UK on a daily basis. So I've got a few sentences, and so I will read the sentence and then we can just kind of dissect it, okay, and to see what's going on. So some of these I got from Chat GPT, some I got from forums, and some I actually got from my memory, okay? So here's the first one, okay? So I'll read the sentence, we'll talk about the context and then analyse the language, okay? So
that's great. That's going to be fun.
Here we go. The defendant, Joe Bloggs, 42, who resides in a £600,000 house in London, arrived in court wearing a grey suit and tie. So, first of all, obviously, what's going on here? It's someone that's going into court. But what language things have you noticed there, Gabriel? So, Joe Bloggs, 42, who resides in a £600,000 house in London.
Right. So I'm looking at. I'm going to start making notes now. Now I know how this works. Resides. That's not a normal word.
Yeah, that is true as well. Actually, yeah.
Yeah, it means like lives, right? I guess it's just more formal, isn't it?
Definitely. So one thing I noticed as well is how tabloids seem to always give the value of people's houses for some reason. So
right. Yeah.
I don't really see how that is relevant to the fact that he's going into court, that he lives in a £600,000 house.
Yeah. I mean, because, journalism, and especially tabloid journalism, is kind of about like weaving a narrative, creating a story, right? Yeah. You want your good guys and your bad guys. And I guess because like the UK is very class conscious. So
absolutely.
I'm imagining, here's my hot take on this, is that like they want this guy, they've decided he's the bad guy. And what better way of making him the bad guy than just say that he lives in an expensive house? Maybe that's my theory. That's my hot take.
It's true. Because
do you think there's something in that?
You're much more intelligent than me noticing these things, because I hadn't really noticed that. But yeah, again, you wouldn't find that sentence of like he lives in a £150,000 house, would you? Because it has to be an expensive house, because that makes us then hate this person more.
Yeah, right. It's placing him in the villain role.
Yeah,
right? The bad rich guy, the Mr. Burns character.
Absolutely.
What's the story like? Was he kind of the bad guy in this story?
So this is just something I've taken from a blog, because also the name Joe Bloggs, I'm sure you've heard that name before, which in the UK, if you just have to give a random name of a person, it always seems to be Joe Bloggs. And also that he arrived in court wearing a grey suit and tie.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's very normal clothes to wear to court. Like you're wearing a suit and a tie. But again, they seem to...
Why did they say that?
It reminded me as well, actually, of something else that I see. When there is an important court case, I assume that obviously photographers are not allowed in. So you get someone that's done a drawing of the person in court, don't you? Of like, I don't know, this famous person in court, and someone's done literally a hand drawing of this person.
Yeah. It's strange, isn't it? I remember that from like when I was a kid, and I was like, when you're watching the news and they're showing all these pictures, but it's all very serious, but it's all like kids' pictures. It's not kids, but they're like just art drawings.
I agree. And you kind of look at it and you think, I think that does kind of look like Michael Jackson, but if I look closely, it does kind of look like him. But that's another strange one.
That's weird, isn't it? Yeah.
It's a very strange thing that happens. But okay, so the next one. Okay. So it begins. So, a source close to the family said a secret love child has emerged, casting doubt on the politician's integrity. So, what things can you take from this?
Okay.
My first thing is, actually, I won't say, but very close to the beginning of the sentence, a source close to the family. What does that tell you?
Okay, yeah. So, a source close to the family. I mean, journalists have sources, right? This is where they get their information from.
Yeah.
That's a source. A source close to the family. I mean, you can speculate. Is that a neighbor? Is that another family member?
With my take on this, every time I read a source or an insider or something like that, I just think this basically means this part is absolute rubbish. And the newspaper have just decided to make their own opinion about this and include this.
I suppose, yeah, because if you're a journalist and you couldn't get any proper story out of it, and you wanted to make something up, you could just say that, because journalists don't have to reveal their sources. That's
exactly.
So they can just make up a source. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
I actually remember any time I was reading a tabloid newspaper in a cafe or something, as soon as I saw the bit where it said a source or an insider, I just thought, right, I'll skip this bit because this bit is clearly utter bollocks, and then I will go to the other bit. Because like you said, if it's a real person, then and this person says this, then that's much more credible. But if someone just says to me, oh, someone told me, I'm immediately thinking, is this true?
Yeah, I mean, you feel less inclined to not believe something if you don't know where they found it out from. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's
some juicy language in this one as well.
Oh, the secret love child, I think.
Love child, that's great. I love that, because love child, it sounds so nice. Love plus child, two things that most people like, and yeah, but it's so sordid. It's like it's evidence of romping. when you have a love child, it's like it's the same sort of judgment, isn't it? It's the same sort of like sinful behavior feeling going on, right? Like a love child.
Absolutely. Proof.
It's an illegitimate child, isn't it? A love child is for lack of a better term. Actually, there are better terms for that. I'm going to use this one anyway. It's a bastard, right? It is
a literal bastard.
It's literally what it means. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, am I getting that right?
No, that is right. Yeah, it's very rare you hear the word bastard in that like its original context. Let's say original meaning.
Yes.
But yeah, that is, it's, I think, like the word bitch, isn't it? Of like female dog.
Female dog.
Yeah, again, that word is not really used that much too.
I suppose so. And I guess, getting geeky about it, there's a point when people start using a word in a different way for so long that the original meaning is no longer its meaning.
Yeah, no.
It gets robbed in a way, I suppose.
I totally agree. So this next one, this is one I got from... I kind of put this together because I remember reading this a few years ago, actually, but there are a few really nice words in this one. So this was talking about when Facebook changed its design, okay? And the sentence is, one outraged Facebook user slammed the new design of the website, saying, quote, it just doesn't make sense. So... what do you think about this one?
Okay, some good stuff here. Slammed.
Slammed is
great.
So good.
Yeah, that's a good term. You see it outside the papers a bit, right? Like, some people... Do you hear that elsewhere?
I would hear that, like, he slammed the book on the table. But in this, for the listeners that maybe have difficulty understanding this, because newspaper language is very difficult, isn't it? With all of these crazy adjectives and lots of other crazy language. So it like slammed, he's not happy with it, let's say, because that's it. People are never just unhappy or annoyed. They are like it says here, outraged, and they slam things. And in this forum that I was reading, so it's another meaning of slam is to slam someone. They said it sounds a bit like the WWF, like wrestling, where you see people get slammed.
Yeah, like a pile driver sort of wrestling move, slamming them into the ground. I guess that's it, right? That's how we got this. Is it an idiom or a metaphor? Using slam like this to criticize, I suppose, harshly criticize. That's a perfect way to describe it. You will often see it in politics as well, because they don't like disagree with new policies. They slam the new policies, which is absolutely lovely language. Yeah, I love this. Again, you like the outraged as well, like outraged and slammed. These are like really powerful words. They're really they have a lot of like impact to them.
No, 100%.
Yeah, that's why tabloids are so popular, I think, because it's just much more exciting to read such like kind of exaggerated descriptions of things.
Exactly. So because if you just see he's unhappy with the new website design, you're kind of like, but when he slams it, you're kind of like, oh, blimey.
He's outraged. Yeah. The thing is, right, this guy doesn't seem too bothered. He just says it doesn't make sense. That seems to be the worst criticism they could get out of this guy. So it's not really slamming it. But that's why reading the tabloids is fun, right? Because you have this bombastic language, and then you have this real, like, kind of like mild sort of reality that you see through it sometimes, and it's kind of funny. Doesn't make sense. Oh yeah, what a slamming! Doesn't make sense. Take that, Facebook.
That is so true. You read the headline, and you think like, oh my god, this seems serious, and then when you actually read what the person actually said like this, you often just think, not so sure. But I actually remember reading that story at the time, and I just remember thinking like, who is this person anyway, and what is he to tell, or who is he to tell like Mark Zuckerberg about how to run things? He's probably just some like 20-year-old. This was actually before, I remember this was about sort of 2007, 2008. So you go on the computer, open Facebook, the designs change. And where have they found this guy anyway? Like, why is he such an expert about Facebook?
Yeah, why are they asking him? Yeah. Because was this like, he was just some guy, right?
Yeah.
He wasn't like a graphic design expert or user interface, user experience
exactly
professional or anything. He was just a Joe Blogs, you could say.
Exactly, a Joe Blogs, a Facebook user, because that's the other thing. They give these kind of descriptive words, don't they? And he's just a simple Facebook user, like millions of other people around the world.
Literally billions of people.
Yeah,
I think now. Yeah. That was cool. I love. Yeah, it's really cool. Like the newspapers and the exaggerated language.
Yeah, in fact, this next one, this is very exaggerated. Cool. So this one I got from Chat GPT, and they generated, and this is something I can perfectly imagine seeing in the newspaper. So I'll read the headline and the little bit of the story that it has. So, sizzling supermodel Gigi's beach vacation photos break the internet. One onlooker said the D-cup actress was having a whale of a time on the boat, and that he had the breast view. Now, there's lots.
Oh my God. There's so much to unpack here, which is probably another good pun for that article. Can we go from the beginning? Can we go piece by piece? This is brilliant.
So, I think even the first word. So, sizzling supermodel.
Alliteration.
Yeah.
Straight away.
Exactly. And just that sizzling, you just think, wow. Like, obviously, something sizzles. Like, if you put, like, meat on a barbecue, like, you have that, like, sizzle. And so that's what, obviously, this supermodel Gigi, her beach vacation photos break the internet as well.
Break the internet. I love that phrase. Yeah, because that's used a lot, right? That's
It
like,
is.
yeah, like when this is of early meme culture, this phrase came out, right? Like when, sort of, what would it be? What used to break the internet? Like, some sort of Photoshop job that made somebody look terrible or something stupid like that. And then or like some sort of really sick burn
Yeah.
when somebody slammed somebody really effectively and it broke the internet. Or an album gets released and everyone downloads it and it breaks the internet.
It's just, has the internet ever actually been broken? The internet is broken now.
Yeah, it's definitely metaphorical, right?
Completely
an idiom. Yeah. It's good though. It does the job, right? It's an effective idiom.
That headline, sizzling supermodel Gigi's beach vacation photos break the internet. I want to see these photos. Like, that's making me want to see these photos of supermodel Gigi.
Really well written headline. Yeah, and the rhythm as well, like dun 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 dun. It's got this sort of like, it's just throwing stuff at you like constantly.
Absolutely.
What's the next part of that?
And so,
it's just so good.
We've then got the one onlooker again. So someone there. So this part is absolutely hilarious. Said the D cup actress. So describing someone by her bra size is just like, that is just so obscene, isn't it? I mean, like I said, this come from Chat GPT, but that is something that I can perfectly imagine in a tabloid newspaper.
Easily. Yeah. That's exactly the sort of stuff they do. Good job, Chat, there. I like the word onlooker, just to get away from the interesting bit briefly, just because onlooker and passerby, these are kind of interesting words that have the same sort of feeling to them, don't they?
Yeah.
Onlooker, passerby. But yeah, referring to someone by their bra size is quite something.
Yeah, exactly. And these onlookers, and when someone has, especially I know the tabloids love this, of a good-looking woman, famous woman, on holiday at the beach, that is like a massive story, isn't it? So basically, it's just someone staring at this person at the beach, and like all other people at the beach, she's probably wearing a bikini. But that seems to be a massive news story.
Well, I mean, it's all in the writing, isn't it? If you'd just written "man stares at woman in bikini," I don't think so many people would have read it. But that's essentially the story, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. We said the D-cup actress was having a whale of a time on the boat. So nice, they're having a great time. And that he had the breast view. Now, these onlookers as well just seem to have the ability of making these puns. So these obviously jokes with a play on word. And again, they're not describing this person, they're just saying one onlooker. Did the onlooker really exist, or was there just a photographer from the newspaper taking pictures of the D-cup actress? We don't know. Because, like you said, that story is man stares at woman in bikini, really, isn't it? So here's another one which I think is brilliant. The steamy love triangle between the characters keeps viewers hooked on the TV drama. Now, what do you like about that? The steamy love triangle between the characters keeps the viewers hooked on the TV drama.
Nice.
What do you
think?
Well,
steamy, love triangle, hooked. These are the powerful words, right? Steamy is like sizzling, isn't it? We got steaming, we got sizzling, we got heat and cooking metaphors for sort of, I don't know, what is this sort of sexy vibes? That's the technical term.
Sexy vibes. Yeah, like all of this sexy language, like you said, is so. Like you said, steamy, and all of the rest of them immediately make you think, oh, and the love triangle as well.
Love triangle's great, yeah.
Because obviously, for people that don't know, that normally, I'm not saying always, but a relationship has two people. So if there are three, there's one person that shouldn't be there. So something's happening in this relationship that shouldn't be happening.
Three-way, and it's usually sort of something not cool, right? It's unstable. A love triangle.
Oh
isn't
yeah,
it?
yeah, exactly. You can't maintain a love triangle for very long.
I heard a really cool phrase recently. It's very recent. Have you heard this one? A thruple.
A thruple? No, tell me, what is
It's
it?
like a couple, but it's three.
Right. Okay.
For me, this is different from a love triangle, because a love triangle, I feel, is like illicit. People are hiding things from each other. It's all a bit sordid. It's rompy, more romping. But I think a thruple, it feels very like Zoomery, if you know what I mean.
So that's a new term for people that are in like a three-way relationship, right?
Yes, but this is all very consensual. It's all very in the open.
Right.
They're very honest with each other. It's just like everyone knows the deal and everyone's cool with it.
Right. Okay.
Which is kind of cool, right? Like, I like that.
Yeah.
It's nice. It's much. It sounds a lot more healthy than a love triangle. Love triangle feels like it's going to explode or implode, I suppose, fall apart. Yeah,
absolutely. But so it keeps viewers hooked. So it keeps people watching. A lovely word. But when I read this, I also did think how I remember when I was a child. It was like sometimes front page news about things happening in British soaps, so British TV dramas. So basically there was front page news about a fictional TV show, and people would always find out what was going to happen before. And I remember like my friends at school or people telling me these storylines, and I was just thinking, what?
Spoilers.
What is the point of this? Exactly.
The news is spoiled. Yeah, it's like Neighbours and EastEnders and all these soap operas. You could go on websites and find out what was going to happen. And I had a friend who did this, and like she was really into EastEnders, but she had to find out what was going to happen before she watched it. And I was like, Karen, don't you like? Why don't you want to sort of enjoy it? And she's like, I don't enjoy it unless I know what's going to happen.
Yeah, no, I remember the same. And I actually was quite a big fan of EastEnders back in the day, in the 90s. And I remember one of my friends at school told me what was going to happen, because I always didn't want to know. I wanted the excitement. And I remember we actually had a big argument. I was like, I actually remember the way he described it was impossible for me not to find out because it was on the front page of the newspaper.
That's not a very good reason.
Yeah, exactly. But still, it is crazy how on the front page of newspapers there's things happening in fictional TV shows. I don't know if it's still the case.
Can we still call them newspapers if they're doing that? I mean,
exactly.
If your news is news from another reality, is that legit?
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, so in fact, okay, I've got two more. So
cool.
This one, okay, we've been to this territory before, but here's another lovely word in particular. So the celebrity's career takes a hit as the raunchy sex tape scandal surfaces. So what do we think about that? There's one word in particular which certainly grabs.
Read it one more time. Let's have a
celebrity's career takes a hit as the raunchy sex tape scandal surfaces.
That's such a good word right in the middle of that sentence. Yeah, raunchy, right? That's the one you're thinking of.
Absolutely. Yeah, of course. Yeah. That's the one that jumps straight out at you. Again, to describe it, again, it's all connected to like steamy and like all of these other ones we've had. Something obviously it's sexual. But this raunchy sex tape, there have been lots of them, the sex tapes, over the years, haven't they? It's
funny that they're still called sex tapes, right? Because there's no there's no tape in them anymore. But yeah, totally.
Yeah, definitely. We need to change the terminology there.
Yeah.
But again, amazing because I don't see so many tabloids these days, but I don't know if that happens so frequently. But yeah, certainly sort of turn of the millennium where like webcams started.
It was really a thing, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I always just thought if you're famous and someone says, shall we use the webcam, just say no, because you know this is going to be in the tabloids very soon.
It's not going to end well. Yeah. But I'd imagine in a way it might happen even more now, right? Because
it's so much easier to...
So easy to film. Phones are everywhere. And what's the deal? I never understood the sort of culture of it. What are they secretly being filmed, or have they agreed to make a tape? Like, what's the deal? Like, is it? And do you think it's also maybe just a way? Because if you somebody publishes a sex tape against your will in theory, but you've actually arranged for the whole thing to happen. I mean, it's a big it could be a really big publicity move, right?
It could be. As they say, all publicity is good publicity, because that certainly, let's say, puts you on the map. And this one is actually quite connected to it's almost the same. In fact, this isn't really so much of a language thing, just the type of article you will see, which I believe is known as a kiss and tell. So, and the headline would be my night of passion with Robbie Williams, for example. So, my night of passion with insert famous name. And this one I got from a forum, and somebody said how it always has normally a girl wearing not many clothes in this newspaper article talking about her night of passion with this famous person, and then somewhere in the article it will say she is worried about what her parents may think. And then no, I just get baffled by how these things are so big. Do you know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, of course,
they sell so many papers.
Like, famous person like having a romantic relationship with someone, like it's not really a news story, but yet that will be like a massive 2-page spread, probably front page and at least 2 pages inside the tabloid newspaper. But I've seen that as well so many times, of worried what her parents may think. So she's telling the world, telling everyone in the country about her night of passion with someone, which generally is not something you talk to your parents about. And also then in the article wearing not many clothes. Actually, I do have just one more, actually, which again, this is something I specifically remember reading myself. I actually sent it to a friend because I thought it was so good. So this was actually talking about a footballer. Now, obviously, I think people know about like the culture of footballers and how they're supposed to be, let's say. And it said, so I remember the player as well, Vincent Kompany, said he would rather read a book in capital letters than go to the pub.
I mean, it's presented as an either-or situation. One of my favourite hobbies is both go to the pub, get a drink, read a book. It's just heaven. Yeah.
I just love the outrage of like, can you believe he would rather read a book? Like, is he totally mental?
Who reads a book? Yeah, that's insane.
Like, especially he's a footballer. Like, what is he doing reading a book? And he would rather do that than go to the pub. Like, insane. Is this person crazy?
Yeah. That is just mad. Yeah, who would do that? This reminds me a lot. Did you ever get into Bill Hicks?
No.
Yeah, he's this American comedian from the 90s, really funny, and he's talking about how he's he's touring the Midwest in the States, and he's at like a waffle bar or something, and like he's sitting down reading a book, just eating his waffle, and then the waitress comes up to him and says like, "What are you reading for?" He's like, "Not what am I reading, but what am I reading for?" And then like big trucker comes up to him, says, "Oh, looks like we got ourselves a reader." And it's like he's like, "What's happened? Where am I? I'm just reading a book in a waffle bar." And yeah, he's sort of illustrating how some people really do think like that. That reading is just like the most strange thing that they could possibly imagine.
Absolutely, and the British tabloids obviously definitely agree with you, because they do have that like capitalizing letters, don't they, a lot as well, like book. Oh my god! So
the word book was capitalized in this, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Can I guess which
perfect?
paper
I've
this
still
was?
got the picture.
Are we allowed to?
You can have a go. Yeah.
Okay, so this is going to be one of those papers that have like a red font. Those are the most caps locky tabloids, right? So there was like
Yeah.
the Daily Star was for a while. Was that right? I don't know my tabloids, do I? But I'm going to go for the Sun. I'm going to assume it's the Sun.
The Sun. It was the Sun.
Yeah,
of course.
That's classic Sun, isn't it?
Exactly. One word they didn't use in that, actually, which is another word I see used when they're talking about someone like a scientist or something. They will use the word which I only ever heard when I was a child at school of boffin, like the boffin scientist.
I missed that word. Boffin. So do they still use that?
I mean, I'm talking about years ago, the last time I read a tabloid newspaper, but I remember seeing that a lot. So a boffin would be someone like, let's say, intelligent, like studious person. When I was at school, there was the grammar school, which people have to pass an exam to go there. So generally, let's say, more intelligent people. But our school, we all thought it was hilarious to call them boffins. And I went to a Catholic school, and they used to call us Bible bashers because
I remember
we were just bashing each other with Bibles all day, apparently.
Bible basher. Yeah, spod is another one we used.
Oh right, I've not heard spods.
It's like boffin. It's like kind of nerdy kids who are into like science and reading
people
books.
That read. I was just about to say that that read books.
Readers, yeah.
Those bloody readers, hey.
Yeah.
But so that does bring us to the end of our podcast, Gabriel. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Good. I really enjoyed that. That was such a good idea. I've made a list. Do you want can we quickly go through the list of the
let's go.
vocab that I really enjoyed from today?
Okay.
And they're all kind of in the same theme. We started with romp, right? Which was left over from the last one. Yeah.
When you said that, like I said, I had never thought, and I remember on your podcast, I just could not stop laughing when you mentioned how newspapers always use the word romp, and that has stayed with me. Every time I see that word, I love it.
It's a good. You know what? I'm looking for a band name at the moment for my band. Romp is not bad. I bet it's taken. I'm going to make a note of that. Yeah, so we got romp, we got love child, we got raunchy, we got love triangle, and we got kiss and tell.
Yeah,
this is the sort of tabloid, sordid, sort of sexy vibes world that they inhabit.
Yeah. Absolutely, sex sells, as they say.
Yeah.
But so, just to tell people, I mentioned this in the intro, but Gabriel obviously doesn't just talk about funny things in newspapers. You have your English teaching thing, so tell us where we can find out more about you.
Yeah, so my partner and I have a blog. If anyone still reads blogs, it's clarkandmiller.com.
Reading.
Yeah, readers, if only readers out there. Clarkandmiller.com. It basically has everything. So Clark and Miller, so Clark like Clark Kent, and Miller like the beer. Clarkandmiller.com. We have a blog with basically lots of English lessons, a podcast. We've got a YouTube channel as well, so you can find, if you look for Clark Miller on YouTube, look for Clark Miller on Instagram. We're all over the place. These days, if you want fresh content, it's more happening in the Instagram, YouTube area. We've also got TikTok, but I'm terrible at updating that.
Same. But I will include links to all of this in the show notes.
Oh, thanks, Martin. Nice.
So, thanks a lot for coming on, Gabriel. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks so much for inviting me.
We'll talk again soon.
It was a bit of a romp, I suppose.
It was.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks so much, Martin.
Okay, thanks a lot. Cheers.
Great.
Bye-bye.
Cheers, mate. Bye-bye.
So there we have it, the end of the conversation about the British tabloids and the language that they use. Now, normally I talk about vocabulary, but I don't really want this podcast to go on much longer. I really try to keep podcasts 20 minutes, and I've just realised we're coming up to 40. So all of the vocab stuff will be in the show notes. So go to rockandrollenglish.com, click podcast episodes, find the latest episode, and then you will find the vocab there and links to all Gabriel's stuff. So thanks a lot for listening, everyone. I will see you all very soon. But in the meantime, just keep on rocking, baby.
Thanks so much for listening to Rock and Roll English. For more great content and to stay up to date, visit rockandrollenglish.com and facebook.com/rockandrollenglish. We'll catch you next time.